Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our preview of Week 6 of CFL action. We've had quite an eventful bit, and I gotta say, last week's games, good set of games. This week's games, we'll see. It's gonna be there's a few here that look like they're gonna be really solid, and then some that are gonna be looking like a little bit of more on the side of a blowout. So we're gonna start off with the first game of the week, though, which is the Hamilton Tiger Cats versus the Edmonton Elks, and this is kind of what we were saying these past few weeks about how the Ticats, they had that start of the season that was more rough than they were expecting. I knew they were expecting maybe not to have the best, as they had a bit of a difficult schedule to start out. However, maybe a bit. I don't think you maybe expected to go 0-3 out of those. However, they got a win back this past week, and now they're playing the Edmonton Elks at home. So you have to be a little bit worried in the sense of that Edmonton actually performed quite decent at home last time. They put a bit of a push because of how important that game is. And this is your reminder that the Edmonton Elks have not won a single home game as the Elks. They have 19 consecutive losses at Commonwealth Stadium, and the Ticats have the opportunity to give them the big 2-0, the big 20 straight losses. So how are you feeling, my Ticats friend?
Okay, so side note, out looking at the two depth charts today.
Yep.
The Elks are not starting their center that has been started for the last couple of weeks.
Interesting.
And then if you switch over to the Ticats depth chart, we are starting all veteran centers, offensive line. Riley's back. So we have no rookies starting on our offensive line. The only rookie that is on our offensive line this week is Mr. Black, who is our backup right guard. And then you have Kemp going from left to right with Van Zyles. And don't forget our lovely friend, Kevin McAllister from the last week, who got that screenshot touchdown. He is doing all kick returns and punt returns this week. And Woods the third is just focusing on being the corner this week.
Yep.
So,
yeah, being able to have some of those guys, like, just kind of, like, as much as it is great having those, it's so great having those players that can kind of slide into a slot, kind of putting a guy in one spot and allowing him to practice that and build his game at that and excel at that, I think is generally a smart move if you don't need to stretch him thin and stretch him somewhere else.
The only downside is we don't have Bennett this week. Mason Bennett. He is kind of on the IR. But yeah, I honestly think part of me is nervous, but the rest of me is saying we are coming away with the win this week. We are not going to pull Saskatchewan. If we beat them single-handedly like we did the Red Blacks last week, I will officially say to all those Saskatchewan fans, you guys are absolutely trash.
There you go. You're gonna piss off you're gonna piss off Rider Nation.
Because
don't do that.
if they can only beat
my mere existence pisses off Rider Nation.
If they can only beat the Elks by 1 point and we can beat the Elks by more than one, that tells you something.
Also, reminder that 1 point was a 1 point because someone forgot the rules of the game. So
and
that
we
game
don't
goes
have a
to
delicate this week.
That goes to if that goes to OT, who knows? But I agree with your assessment of this next game. I think that the Ticats are going to get it done. It's one of those things where just it's because I remember I was talking to you and you were talking about one of these weeks where you're like, oh, I'm going to bet on the Elks because they can't lose every game. And I'm like, yeah, but if they have 18 games and they lose and they win 2 of them, and I bet them to lose all 18, I'm right 16 times. So like, reason and that reason alone, especially that it's a home game, I'm going to be going with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
And then I told you last week, and you can approve me saying this, if they were going to beat anyone, it was going to be the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And had they have not screwed up that
Well,
end zone, they
well,
would have beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But it wasn't at
there is a
home.
new opportunity of a team to beat due to certain injury problems, but we will get to that a little bit later. Oh my goodness! But let's get into our next one, which is going to be the Toronto Argonauts versus the Montreal Alouettes. So we got a big game here. Alouettes coming off some shaky performances, and Toronto playing relatively strong. Toronto has played relatively consistent for the most part. I think it's important to see that Chad Kelly has slid in pretty well so far as that starting quarterback that they're hoping for. Has not been perfect. I think that AJ Ouellette has been a really solid piece in the running game to the point where Andrew Harris is probably asking for playtime because it seems like Ouellette is on the field most of the time. What do you think about this game, Toronto versus Montreal?
Had we ever made a call to Montreal to see if Fajardo has, what is it, like, no, not really life support, but like, you know what I mean? Like health support. Like with as many times as he got sacked last week,
Like, does
it's
he have
just
like
gonna
health
get worse.
insurance? Is he covered?
Thank you. Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. Like someone needs to call down to Montreal to see if he has health insurance because he is going to get sacked. I'm gonna make a prediction. He's gonna get sacked over 5 times, and he's gonna throw 3 interceptions plus. So 5 sacks and 3 interceptions is my.
And you want to know what's
funny?
I'm actually more confident about the 5 sacks because I gotta say this Montreal Alouettes O-line has not been doing it for Fajardo. Like, I mean, like that's the thing that's got to be really frustrating for a guy like Cody Fajardo, where he was with the Riders last year, and that was one of the Riders' problems. The Riders have since then gotten a lot better with the offensive line. They've made some changes to make it better. They've been performing better. And he now goes from one not so great O-line to one worse O-line, honestly, from what it seems like. But we'll have to wait till the end of the season to see if he gets sacked, whatever what was it, 57 times last year? Something crazy like that?
61 of 77.
61 of 7. That's crazy. That's wild. But
and he's already at 21.
And he's already at 21. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it's simply a scenario where I don't see any way that the Alouettes win this game. I can see a way where they could put up a little bit of a fight, maybe if they turn some things around. But assuming they turn everything around, I still think they lose this game to the Argonauts, as the Argonauts currently of the East are the team to beat. So but I don't think the Alouettes are the team to do it.
I'm gonna add on another bold thing onto my list of bold predictions, and I'm saying Toronto's gonna at least somehow, I don't know how shape and form they're gonna do it. They're putting up at least 30 points on the Alouettes this week.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that with the way that the Alouettes have struggled a little bit, because I mean, the line hasn't, like, even the D line hasn't been amazing for the Alouettes. Had some decent performances, but I feel like Toronto is just going to be running the ball on them all game. And it's just going to be, and so they'll be running the ball all game. They'll occasionally do a throw play. They'll get great success out of that, and they'll run that score up in that way, I believe. So I believe that the Argonauts are going to win this game. Is there anything else that we have to say about this Alouettes game? Because I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I can't really think of it.
Nothing that stands out to me from the Alouettes. It's just like if I'm an Alouettes fan, like I'm honestly nervous. Like I'm more nervous for this game from an Alouettes fan than the previous game from an Elks fan standpoint of view.
Like you're saying that
because like Elks, it's pretty much like, okay, this season's like down like the crapper, like. There's nothing to like be scared about, but like as Alouette fans, it's like, okay, this team's in first, they're unbeaten. Like, what more else? Like
what more?
What I mean?
What more motivation
for this?
Yeah.
Like if they beat BC with 6 like whatever the interceptions were, and 6 interceptions and sacks and everything. What are they going to do against us? And we're in the same division.
Yeah. So I think, but yeah, I am still going to be going with the Argonauts with the win with this one. And your final call?
Uh,
Who's winning?
I'm going with the Argonauts on this one. There's
And
no.
yeah, oh, he hates that word. But we're going to get into our third game of the week, which is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers against the Ottawa Red Blacks. And man, this matchup could have been a close game. It could have been a close game. However, Jeremiah Mazzoli, without even playing a half of football, goes out. And so the Red Blacks do one of the smart decisions in taking in a guy like Tyrell Pigram. Problem is, do you think Tyrell Pigram has had enough time to learn the playbook to be effective in a game situation? I'm going to go with no. I don't think so. It is too early to put Pigram in. He's got to learn that playbook first for the Red Blacks. So it's one of those things where if you're the Red Blacks, you gotta hope to do something. Now, thankfully for teams playing against the Bombers, for some reason, they've just, like, I don't know if you've noticed this, almost every game, not every game, but a lot of the games where teams are playing against the Bombers, they overperformed in the sense of BC Lions' best game of the year against the Bombers. Saskatchewan's best game of the year against the Bombers. Like, there are teams that they are, because the Bombers are essentially the standard in the sense of that they have, those two Grey Cups, almost got it last year, and they're looking to get themselves a third in such a short amount of time. It's one of those things where they're still seen to a decent degree as the team to beat. So it's going to be one of those things where, that will motivate an Ottawa Red Black squad to put up some kind of performance. The question is that does that overrule all the talent and the depth that the Bombers have on their roster? Personally, I don't think it does. I think the fact that Jeremiah Mazzoli is out and what is most likely a career-ending injury, if you're the Red Blacks, like, the Mazzoli was seemingly that piece that you're going to build your team around. I don't know where you go from here. And I don't know how the Red Blacks win this game. Only if they put someone in and they get a miracle out of them. But and it's not because I don't think the Red Blacks are capable of playing well, or I think this game will be a closer game just because the Bombers recently have had this habit of seeing games that shouldn't be close and making them close. And so I have a feeling like the Bombers will win, but by probably about around a touchdown-ish. What about yourself, Rick?
So looking at this, I find it hilarious because last week we played the Red Blacks, we won.
Yep.
This week we're playing the Elks. This week you guys are playing the Red Blacks. Next week you guys play the Elks. So what is this? And then looking at the injury report this week, Jeff Coate hasn't played in 2 days, or hasn't practiced in 2 days.
See, I'm okay with that because there have been so many guys that have not practiced but then ended up playing.
So he's limited with a hip injury. And then if you go up, Wilson's practice, Rose has practice, and I'm probably going to butcher this guy's name. I'm saying he's probably a backup, but Creamdy. He's one of your guys' defensive backs. Creamdy, Kramdi is his last name.
That would be a guy I'm not as familiar with.
Redha is his first name.
Okay, yeah. Well,
anyways,
I don't know who you're talking about.
He hasn't practiced. Parker, he's limited with an ankle injury.
I see.
Dembski practiced yesterday but didn't practice today. Grant, he hasn't practiced 2 days with an ankle injury.
Yeah, Grant is most likely going to be out, so it looks like probably that McRae is going to be going into that spot. And it's funny because a while ago it would have been like, man, I like McRae, but I really want Grant in there. McRae had one hell of a run last week where he ran like 120 yards, and that, keep in mind, that is not taking into account how much he was running laterally. He literally gets the ball, runs 20 yards to the left, runs it down the field diagonally, so you're getting at least another 10 yards in lateral, possibly more. So the guy ran about 150 yards on that play, and he is just gassed at the end of that. Oh my goodness.
Just make sure he has an oxygen tank on that sideline.
You gotta, you know what you need? You need one of those oxygen cans that they had on like Shark Tank, where you can just like, and like I think it's for like snowboarders if they're in like high ass altitudes, something like that, But
I want to. Okay, I will say, if we get the first half Bombers and not the second half Bombers, but the first half, with Crum starting this week, I'm saying Bombers put up 30 points.
Yep. But
minimum.
I see.
If you get the second half Bombers, I'm saying probably at least 20.
Wait,
It'll be some.
Wait, hold on a second.
It'll be some.
I need to make sure. So are you saying like if the Bombers play the way they do normally in the first half of the game, they're putting up 30?
It will be something like 30.
You're telling me they put up more points if they, because they've had better second halves than they have first halves.
No, but like I'm saying, like if they have like an all overall like showing, they will have a better.
Are you saying?
Game.
Okay, hold on a second. So you're saying if they play the full 60 minutes, they get
yes.
30. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you meant if they play the whole.
They have.
Okay, I understand that. I thought you meant
if they have a shit first half but a good second half.
Yeah, no,
I'm only saying they're only winning like 20
sense.
to like 15.
What I thought you said was if they play the entire game the way that they normally play the first half, or if they play the entire game the way they'd play the second half, and I was just kind of like, what do you mean? We're a second half team, but that makes a lot more sense now. And so it's one of those things where the Bombers, if you're the Bombers, you want to get back in stride in the sense of last year we cruised through the season. I was not really worried about that many games. And this year I've been a little bit worried. Like, not really worried, but just kind of like, I would love like one game for us to just blow a team out of the water. Can we just do that at least once? Like, we're supposed to be like the best team in the league. We should absolutely be able to do that. Come on, guys. Like, we gotta do it eventually. And the Red Blacks now are suffering the loss of their starting quarterback that they were going to essentially build this franchise around. So it's one of those things where now's the time to strike. Strike the iron while it's hot.
I do have a question for you. So are you saying like blowing out of the water like 45-27 against Saskatchewan in week 2? That's not blowing them out of the water?
See, here's the thing. The first half of that game, it was neck and neck. I mean, blowing them out of the water from the start. I mean, this game is never close. There's never any question. Because the thing is that game, it finishes really good. You watch the first half of that game, you could flip a coin and guess who was going to win. Because the Bombers looked average in that first half of the game. So that's why I said they haven't really had a game that was a blowout in the traditional sense of not close, like just that's it. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you're saying like a blowout, like you guys were blown out by the BC Lions?
Oh, exactly.
Like 36.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Screw you, Rick. Yeah, you got it. Reminded
me
of terrible memories. Like, you couldn't have found anything else to relate that to. Like, you just had to, like, dig up the sadness and throw it on me. But it is what it is. So I think we both have the Bombers winning this one, unless you have the Red Blacks.
Yes, I do. God, no.
You have the Red Blacks. We're going to get into our last game of the week, which is probably going to be the most competitive game of the week, for better or for worse. We're going to have the Calgary Stampeders versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders. If you asked me a week and a half ago who's winning this game, I'm saying Saskatchewan. Oh boy, did the Riders suck last week. I am sorry. I understand they won that game, but like they won that game in fluke fashion. That's what we're going to call it. And it's one of those things where, do I think that the Riders are a complete steaming big pile of shit? I don't actually think they're that bad. They put up a really strong performance against the Bombers. They are capable of good things. The problem is that, like, guys, you beat the Elks by 1. You beat the Elks by 1, and it was from a guy forgetting the rules. If you're the Stampeders, you know, you come off a performance where you at least held the Bombers at bay generally. You kept them under 30 points. You tied them in the first half of the game, 11-11. Ideally, you want to completely continue that defense and use that defense to completely shut down the Riders here. I think that the offense of the Stampeders, they're going to try to run that ball a lot, see if they can crack the Saskatchewan Roughriders defensive line that prior to last game had been actually really, really good. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. But how are we feeling about this game, Rick?
Okay, so looking at their injury report,
Yep.
Saskatchewan has 14 out of 15 players have not practiced in 2 days, including their kicker.
Oh, and that's the thing.
So
Their kicking battle, realistically, they're already losing that to Rene Paredes. That's the one thing I will say, and that's why actually, this is why I think, because Calgary, in my opinion, has a bit of an edge. They had a strong performance that they're piggybacking off of against the Bombers, and I say strong performance in the sense of like they didn't get run over. They actually held the Bombers at bay. They went 11-11 in the tie for the first half of the game. Lost a little bit of control near the end, but I mean, typically a lot of teams do against the Bombers. Makes me smile, makes other people cry, but it is what it is. But it's one of those things where the Riders, on the other hand, are coming off their worst game of the season. So,
I will say this.
There would have to be a big turnaround for the Riders going into this game.
If the Riders do not beat Calgary, I do not see the Riders finishing third.
Well, yeah, no, because that's their battle with Calgary.
If you can barely beat Edmonton, what makes you think you're going to finish higher than Calgary?
Well, and also it's one of those things where Calgary is the guy that is the team they're competing with for this spot. That is the team that they are competing with for this spot. So this is a very, very important game for both teams here. And I actually think that when all is said and done, I think that the Calgary Stampeders are going to walk out of this game victorious. I think that the Riders will have a little bit of a bounce back, and I think this will be a very close game. However, I think Rene Paredes and the kicking core of the Calgary Stampeders will make that little difference, and I expect that they'll beat them in field goals.
You don't forget, Riders only won by a field goal last game in overtime.
That's true.
That's how close this game was.
And now they might not even have their kicker. So,
let me go back here just a quick second. So they had 4 interceptions, 1 sack. Lather was only 3 for 4.
So
with 1 extra point.
Do we know how long the one that he missed was?
It does not say. So his longest that he made was 38.
Oh, so they were relatively they weren't that long.
No.
So, well, that was it. Well, to be fair, if that was the furthest one he made, it could have been a further one that he missed. So we're not we'd have to see exactly what it was. I can't remember exactly what it was, but even if he's playing at his best, I don't think he's beating Paredes with the way that Paredes has been playing recently. So it's going to be one of those things where I'm sticking with the Stamps with the win over the Saskatchewan Roughriders here. What do you think?
The only thing that I will say will be the deciding factor is if Mayer has a better game. I think if Mayer
plays the way he did last week, which wasn't even that great, with the way they were able to run the ball, if they can continue that, that'll be enough. However,
but I mean, if he
does worse than
interceptions,
that is where they could run into problems. Because if there's anything that the Riders defense has been really decent at, they had a decent O-line performance for most of those games, and they also were able to get a few picks. So it's one of those things where I think if you're the Saskatchewan Roughriders, you're winning with your defense here.
I'm saying that if the Riders lose, it's going to be because their injuries have caught up to them.
That's fair.
And I'm I'm gonna say this game is gonna be as close as the last game, and it's gonna be within like 3 or 4 points.
And the
And
winner will be.
m- my gut is gonna say Calgary this time around, not just because you picked them, but I think that
But
Mills will
because
have another outstanding running game.
the ball's in
The
their court,
only the only thing that I see a problem with it once I pull it
is Jake Mayer's
up.
not so great passing record last game. Is that what it is? As I think he went
No,
14 for
because
25, and it's one of those things where some of those balls that didn't come in, I expected our Bombers to get picks on those, and the Riders have done decent with that. So
but
if
I
you're a
mean
Riders fan, you want that guy
Duke's
stepping in front of it.
Dukes also has to have a better game too because he went 5 for 11.
That's true.
But
So we're thinking Calgary with this one.
my gut says Calgary, and hopefully it doesn't come back and bite me in the butt.
Yeah, that's the
But
thing. I generally, I guess I'll cheer for the Stamps this game, even though I'm not really a Stamps fan. I mainly just don't like Saskatchewan, and I will never cheer for Saskatchewan. But
I I just I just want to say Calgary because I'm not a West fan, and I just want to see like someone like in the bottom overtake one of the top three West teams,
there
and
you go.
one of the top West teams falls in the toilet.
It's like that thing from the Batman movie. Like some people just want to watch the world burn. Like Rick just wants to watch the West burn. That's how he is.
Yeah.
All right, so
As
this
long as
was
we get as long as we get a win this week, Toronto gets a win so we can catch up to Montreal.
there you go.
I don't care who in the West burns.
All right. Well, without further ado, I think that'll pretty much do it. We went through all four of our games. Make sure you guys comment down below what you think will happen in these four games, your previews, your comments. We love to hear them. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. And make sure that I forgot the outro that I do, and I'll see you guys next
Don't
time.
forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
I said that. I'm doing the salute again. Screw you, Rick.